On this upcoming Attractions episode, Universal and AMC have struck a new and interesting deal. Plus, trailers for Bill and Ted Face the Music and New Mutants. Also, our reviews for The Vigil, Bad Education, Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga, and Unhinged. Also, the MDF game. All this and more on Midnight Double Feature.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Double Feature. This is a feature present. Oh, no, it's not. It's an upcoming Attractions. I am not used to doing that.
Leave it in.
I am not used to doing that. And all flubs get to stay into the podcast. Matt, how you doing?
I am splendid, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, dude. I'm good. It's been it's been an okay couple of weeks. You know, I haven't been doing too much. Other than preparing for the podcast and getting things ready in the background that we're not really ready to talk about yet. But it's exciting times, isn't it?
It is. It's never been a better time. No, it's never been almost a better time to be a fan of Midnight Double Feature, as many things are coming. And, why is he being so vague? Oh, you'll find out in the future, my friends. You'll find out.
Yeah, it's good. And it'll be the near future as well. It's not going to be in 18 months or some shit. Like, it's going to be super soon.
Yeah, 17 to 17 and a half months.
Right, exactly. We're going to do it when COVID ends, which is never.
It's getting scary right now, man. That COVID shit. Where Sydney's doing okay, but shout outs to everyone in Melbourne. You guys have got it rough, man. I literally just bought masks today, so... Oh,
did you?
Yeah,
are you masking up? Yeah.
I'm masking up. I got a bunch of friends in America who, I know masking's a lot more taken seriously over there. And, yeah, man, it's time. And I feel like it's only a matter of time till the cinemas shut down. So I'm trying to get in as much as I can now.
Oh, so am I. I actually went to the movies a few times. Dude, you think Victoria is insane? India just reported 55,000 new cases yesterday.
What?
So, yeah, it's out of control. But anyway, look, we try not to talk about the coronavirus on here because we want to be as far removed from that shit as possible. We want to remain an escapist podcast. We want to remain a good time for your ear holes. So hopefully that's what we're going to be doing on this particular episode of Midnight Double Feature. We got a few things to get into. Matt, let's talk about the AMC / what is it? AMC Universal / Focus Features deals, right? Because it's potentially going to change cinema or cinema going or the cinema experience, which is a big call, but still, how do you think it's going to play out?
Okay, so for those unaware, and I don't have the article in front of me, so feel free to fact check anything I say, but for a while... Do
you want me to just quickly summarize? I've got it open.
Yeah, sure, okay.
I actually should have done that. You know what, guys? I'm not a great host, all right? This is something that Matt is so good at. He's able to, lay down, facts and shit before asking me the questions. But here I am, 2 years into the podcast and being like, what the fuck am I doing? But no, Universal AMC deal could potentially change cinema going and the cinema experience. Essentially, Universal a few months ago said, hey, we are not going to we're not going to give you guys, AMC, our releases anymore. And, Universal own Fast and Furious. They own Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, whatever. So they have billion-dollar franchises that could really, if they withhold them, that could really affect the cinema industry. And there was a new arrangement that was revealed just this past Tuesday. Films distributed by Universal and Focus Features will play at AMC locations for a 17-day exclusive window. So what that means is they're going to play this, the movie, let's say Fast 9 next April. They're going to play Fast 9 for 17 days until it's able to be released on streaming platforms, home video, VOD, whatever. That window used to be 90. That used to be 90 days, used to be a month and a half. 3 months rather. I think 17 days is a weird number. It's how the fuck did they actually arrive at the 17-day mark?
Yeah, I was thinking about that because, your mind goes to, 14 days is 2 weeks. And
I think 30 days is a good number, dude. 30
about
days.
A month, yeah. Well, I was trying to figure out. I was trying to think in my head, why is it that? And the first thing that came to my mind is, well, the Academy and Oscars. One of their rules is you need to be in cinemas for minimum 2 weeks for it to be considered for the Oscars. But I don't think that's the case here. I don't think that's what it is. Maybe it's something to account for long weekends or something, because the main money comes in on the weekend. It is a bizarre number. I think it also should be mentioned. I think AMC were kind of crapping their pants a little bit here over the idea of the precedent this could set for other
we're
studios.
Explicit. You can say shit your pants.
Yeah. So because I think the big thing that scared them was Trolls World Tour. Now, who would have thought this is a movie that shouldn't fucking matter to anybody, but it kind of like changed the game by accident. It went directed VOD when it wasn't supposed to, apparently, and it made 5 times the amount of its estimated profits. It was 5 times more of its predecessor and way more than its estimated profits. And then Universal just got a massive boner thinking, oh, from now on, like VOD, that's where all the money is. Now, I think a lot of this is actually not to do with the fact that everyone wanted to see Trolls World Tour so much. I think it's just because it was the start of the lockdown, start of all this. Everyone thought they weren't going to see anything. It was like one of the only kids movies out. It had no competition. And I think they might have gotten lucky. Now,
it's
I'm
a
going to be
perfect storm. It's a perfect storm.
For them, yeah. And I think, look, I'm going to be honest. I've been using iTunes and buying rentals way more than I used to.
I have to.
And I think that's kind of cool for us. Yeah, I wonder if other studios are going to go down this route. And I wonder if, this is my little theory here, like, why would AMC agree to this? Like, they would want to try and stretch those numbers out as much as possible. I'm thinking maybe there's a clause in the contract about the time period. Maybe it's just for the rest of 2020, or maybe it's just until COVID ends. Like, I don't see it being this way for the rest of time. What do you think?
There'll be a sunset. Yeah, there'll be a sunset period, a sunset clause in the contract for sure. Look, I can only really talk about myself. If I was to, like, I do rent movies all the time now on iTunes and stuff. Like, I have my Apple TV here set up in my room, whatever. It's just nice and easy. But that being said, if I had the option of, if I wanted to watch a movie, like, the other day, Jackie Brown, Quentin Tarantino's movie Jackie Brown was playing at the movies in the cinema. And let's say Jackie Brown isn't available on our streaming providers. So Netflix, Stan, Amazon Prime, Binge, what have you. It's not on like any of those. It's not readily available for me, but it is available for $6.99 to rent on iTunes. I would actually get up off my ass and go watch it at the movies. Because look, the cinemas are like 5 minutes drive away from me. I'd actually rather pay $10 to actually sit in a movie theater and watch it. And that's just me. If I was to, if by some coincidence or miracle, fucking Warner Brothers, I was, walking up to my mailbox tomorrow and I open the mailbox and there's a screener for Tenet sent by Warner Brothers. If that were to happen, I would wait for Tenet to come out in the movie theater. I'm not watching. There's some movies that are designed for the movie experience, the cinema experience, and that 100% is. And I get it. Look, a lot of people don't have time to go to the movies, I think that if this was to be a 30-day period, then that would allow for more people to have the theatrical experience. I feel like 17 days is what is that? That's 3 weekends, right? Nearly 3 weekends, 21 days. Yeah, so it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's not really giving that much time to people. But that being said, I don't think it's the death rattle of the cinematic experience. I can't see a studio like Disney going in for this. Disney aren't okay, we're not going to bend down to the 17-day rule because we want Avengers Endgame in the cinema for a run as long as possible so it has a chance to break Avatar's record, which it did.
Yeah, I also think on top of that, because big blockbusters, big studios like that, they go for the headline, so they want those world-breaking things. But also, I honestly think that movies, especially Marvel movies, for example, they put so much money into the advertising that it would actually make more money in cinemas for them on opening weekend than it would to go direct to VOD, because they've pushed it so much as as an advertising thing that people have to go to a place to see it. I think still people aren't used to renting on iTunes as much. I don't think it's that much in the public atmosphere, you know? Like not everyone is doing that very often. So I think it comes to a point of how much money are you putting into advertising for this? I think a movie like, for example, Unhinged that we just saw, yeah, it's not going to do amazing in the cinemas, right? No matter how many times you put Russell's crow face as an extreme close up on every poster you find. But you take a movie like Black Widow or Mulan, where they're going to put like billions and zillions of dollars behind promoting it and putting on big posters. I think, yeah, get them in the cinema because you can overcharge them on both the ticket and on the popcorn, you know?
Well, it's funny that you say that because I'm looking at the Trolls World Tour VOD sales, right? And according to Deadline Hollywood, they estimated that because of Trolls World Tour's approximate $95 million production cost, plus another $30 million on marketing, the film's only going to break even. You know, like it's not gonna make a profit in VOD sales.
Fuck.
Like it needs about $200 million to actually make a profit.
That's so much. You know what? It just came to me as well. What might also be a factor of influence here. Remember the story going around of Birds of Prey? Birds of Prey was kind of like the first big blockbuster summer Hollywood film that came out at around the start of COVID, and it didn't do very well at all financially. So much that we're pretty much not going to get a sequel now. I think as a direct response. And the biggest thing the studio put the blame on was COVID. They thought people were too scared to go to the cinema or that. Now, is that the case? I don't know. I think the name of the film would have had an influence on it. I think if they just called it Harley Quinn the movie, I think it would have done twice as good or just off that alone. But
plus it was rated R, right?
Yeah, was it? Oh yeah, It must have been. It was pretty mature, yeah. I never thought of that. But yeah, so they've got a perfect storm of like shit that works against it. And I'm sure they thought, well, Deadpool did well. But Deadpool was also the first to do it. And they did it amazingly. And I think I would argue that Ryan Reynolds has more star power than Margot Robbie. But anyways, that's not the point. The point is,
I don't know. That might be a good like argument, like a head to head, because I think Margot is pretty up there.
Yeah, I guess she's had a lot of Oscar buzz lately with her last few years.
Like I, Tonya as well.
Yeah, like man, I love I, Tonya.
Me too.
Fuck, I don't know what that one. Hey, that's a good question. That's for another day though. That's another MDF game. But yeah, I wonder if studios are like, okay, if like Harley Quinn fucked up so bad, we don't want to risk us fucking up. And when we go direct to VOD, we get 100% of the profits. Unless like iTunes takes like 1% of the thing. Yeah, I don't know if you read this, and I can't remember the source, so maybe I'm making shit up, but I swear I read an interview
Classic Matt. Classic Matt.
It's only coming to me now.
Claims.
I swear I read an interview recently. And I can't remember who it was with. It might have been, I think it was either to do with...
just tell me. Just tell me.
It was a director or someone for a film that came out recently. I'm going to assume it was Unhinged, but maybe it was Judd Apatow's latest film, King of Staten Island. But either way, there was like some sort of AMA, and this person got asked a question like, why did you release it to cinemas? Like, no one's going to go watch it now. And this director or producer, whoever the fuck it was, they said, the reason why it's simple, contracts. In order to get a movie funded, you have to get a distribution deal most of the time. And in your contract, it clearly states that you will put the movie in the cinema for X amount of days. And I remember reading this, again, I don't remember who the fuck said it or what movie it was for, and it just blew my fucking mind. It's like, oh, of course, that makes so much sense. Like, when you start funding a film, you got to prove to your investors it's going to make a profit. One of the easiest ways to do that is to prove the distribution by having a contract that says you will screen at this place for this many days.
Yeah, but I mean, the director has no power over this. Like, this is a studio thing. Yeah. Like, there's no, like, the director's not going to be able to be like, okay, like if Christopher Nolan.
I remember it now. It was New Mutants. It was New Mutants. At,
Josh Boone.
It was at during a Comic-Con at home.
That's Josh Boone. Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, but that movie is a fucking travesty. Like, I mean, there's more, there's more about that movie, like, than just the coronavirus. There's the whole Marvel acquisition Disney's acquisition of Fox behind that too. So, I mean, like,
100%.
yeah, like that's, like studios have the final say on how they're going to release their movie because it's their product. You know, like the director has no say about it at all. But yeah, look, man, let's move on. Let's move on to trailers. Let's talk about Bill and Ted Face the Music. This is the first full-length trailer. Other than the tease that we got, not too long ago. I don't have too much to say about this because I think on that episode of the podcast, we talked about how we weren't really dialed into Bill and Ted as we grew up. I really don't have much to say about this. I'm sorry. Like, I know that doesn't make for great fucking podcasting, but...
Well, look, let's smash through it quickly because there's something... I was watching this for the first time and I've only seen it once, but someone stood out to me. They really... did a 180 on us with this by revealing, drum roll, they've got daughters in this. And
I knew that.
And
I knew that.
Well, they weren't in the teaser.
Yeah. So for me, it was like I knew that they had daughters because Samara Weaving was cast, and Samara Weaving was in Ready or Not. She's Hugo Weaving's niece. Sorry. So yeah, like I kind of like had that going, but yeah, like it's interesting that it got you. Like, hit me.
Yeah, so I had no idea, and straight away, I'm not gonna lie, I groaned so fucking hard because not only are they being placed as like kind of like really strong in the center, like they're not just there for like a scene or a gag, they're right there in the middle. But one, they're basically doing impressions of Bill and Ted, like they're not these new original unique characters. They're just basically younger girls
based on the trailer,
but they're essentially, it seems to be, they're just doing impersonations of like what made the original characters cool, like their unique voices and sayings. And which, by the way, like I don't know many people who want to be their dad that much that they're willing to like talk like their dad all the time and use their catchphrase. Maybe not. Okay, I don't know. But it got me thinking, like, there's been a lot of fucking movies over the last 5 years or so about these passing of the torch type things. And I feel like I don't like these type of films because they always feel like it's the studio going, you must like this character. You must like this franchise. And look how similar they are to the character you already are like. And it's like, no, like I like that character because I like that character. I don't want you to just copy and paste some of the attributes onto someone new. Like we got this with Terminator Dark Fate was kind of like a passing the torch. That's the most recent one I can think of. Like the last Pirates of the Caribbean was doing that. Rumor is Black Widow is like that with like a new Black Widow who's I forget her name, the blonde girl. And yeah, like I don't know. Zoe, are you noticing this trend as well? It's popping up.
Yes and no. It mostly pops up in in movies where there's an established franchise that has been going on for a while. Like, you talked about Bill and Ted. We're talking about Bill and Ted. There's other ones, like 21 Jump Street did a really good one. I think if you can make it work, if you can make the actual passing of the torch kind of like thing work, then you can do it really well. 21 Jump Street was a bit more self-aware. Like it's, Johnny Depp and I can't remember the guy of the other guy, Peter DeLuise. They were actually in the first one as themselves undercover, and then they actually die in that. Like, it's not like
the reason that was good, I would say, is it wasn't their movie. It was this brand new thing. They come in for a cameo.
And this might not be either. I mean, we don't know. Yeah. We don't know. Like,
I hope it's not. Like, that's what I'm really hoping. Because I worry, as I'm not a big hardcore Bill and Ted fan, but I imagine if I was, and I'm watching this movie and 50% of the screen time going to these two other new characters, I would be mad because like, no, I came in to see Bill and Ted,
I have to believe that writers are smarter than that. Like if they,
I hope so.
if it's done well, then you can do a really good job at it. Like let's take a look at Star Trek, for example. Right, there are literally two Spocks. You have a younger Spock and a older Spock talking to each other, conversing through a screen.
Yeah.
And the older Spock is literally giving information about the younger Spock's future. Like, if you do stuff like that, that's very clever. Like, Force Awakens had a great, passing of the torch. Literally,
I would say,
passing of the saber. Like,
I would say, despite what a lot of people will say, Star Wars was one of the few films that did it like better. Because they let, especially if you look at Force Awakens, Rey is essentially given her own film. It's not to like the halfway point she meets Han Solo. And like, I think they specifically were smart to write Luke Skywalker out of the majority of the script, but still give him like an overall presence,
right?
To let us know these new characters. Because I'm sure like there are some people out there watching The Last Jedi who are upset, like, where the fuck's Luke Skywalker? How come he's not like fighting people with laser swords yet? Like I imagine there would be a lot of people like that. That's not me. I happen to like the new characters, but you know, to each their own. Listeners of the podcast might be able to pick up on the fact that I'm just kind of like, as much as I really, really like the new trilogy, I'm so burnt out on just like talking about it or hearing about it. That's why I never talk about it, dude. Like, I'm just never like, you know, because it's just, it permeates the internet everywhere. And like, it's all over Facebook, blah, blah. You know, people are talking shit about it. People are like I'm just over it, dude. I'm less jaded because I know within like 3 or 4 years, there'll be a new Star Wars movie. And but
I tune out. I just tune out.
Yeah, Star Wars fans,
they always hate the experience, and that's it.
Yeah, but Star Wars fans, they always hate the new thing. Like, once there's a new thing out, the old stuff gets better. Like, what really drives me mad is so many people love the Star Wars prequels now. And it's like, you motherfuckers hated this 10 years ago.
I don't want to talk about this. Let's fucking move on.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something that I am actually really surprised to be excited to talk about, and that's the New Mutants.
Why, Zoheb? Why?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, you know, for the last 2 years, we've been talking about this goddamn movie because it hasn't released and it was filmed like 3 years ago. But look, Comic-Con just happened. It was an at-home edition of Comic-Con. And it was interesting because Josh Boone showed footage. Like, he showed the first like 5 minutes or so of the movie. And then there was like a really, really well-cut trailer. I was like, you know, it wasn't the footage that got me. It was the trailer. And like, just how effective a well-cut trailer can be. Because if this movie is garbage, then the marketing team should be given an award, because that trailer was absolutely outstanding. Like, that was really, really well done. It was really intense. I really liked what I saw. I liked the mood. I liked the tone of it. I liked the action. I liked the characters. I liked the setup. Even the CG wasn't like garbage as I was expecting. You know, I was like pleasantly surprised. What did you think? Yeah, what really impressed me, honestly, was I think it was like the first 2 minutes it showed or whatever. And here's the thing too, I just really annoys me. A lot of these like movies and game trailers and stuff, they go the first 2 minutes, the first 5 minutes. It never is. It's like within the first act. Like Umbrella Academy released like the first like 5 minutes or something of their show, and it happened at like the 10-minute mark of their first episode. That, I don't know why, that's the thing that gets me. But yeah, I'm loving it too. I'm doing a 180 again on it. I think it's because I'm not doing a 180 yet. I want this to be known. I'm not doing a 180 yet.
Okay. Well, I don't know if, like, you know, I'm not going to mathematically get a protractor out and give you the exact degree I'm going.
It's like 78 degrees acute angle.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, so sorry, that fucking got me. Yeah, so, but like, what's got me about this is we're finally seeing the potential of them using a horror, it-inspired atmosphere around these mutants. Like, this is what we kind of were promised, which always seemed like a weird idea, but workable. And we're seeing it in action in a good way.
That's one of the only elements that I've really praised this whole entire time, the horror aspect of it. Like, it just feels new to me.
It's definitely new. But I think with the last trailer, maybe the last two, they seem to really double down on like the superhero aspects. Like, we're seeing people with like energy fucking beams or whatever. And now it's like, oh, you're giving me another X-Men film. But then you look at something like this and they're not fighting the shit going around them. They're running away. They're acting scared. Like, okay, not only is this fresh, but let's be real, it's probably more realistic. Like, if you see Magneto in the middle of the street fleeing cars around and stuff, it's not going to be like Avengers where like fucking Captain America jumps in and does a triple backflip and kicks him in the head. In real life, you're going to be running away. you're going to be scared as fuck. That would be terrifying. And a lot of these superhero movies, they just show a building explode. You don't really, for the exception of like maybe the opening scene of Batman v Superman, you never really see the on the ground experience of
Civil War
people. When in Civil War?
Civil War like deals with not
you got the political aspect, yeah.
But it deals with like the fallout.
Yeah, but like more like you're there in the moment, you're seeing it going on, you're scared.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know? I like that. Like with Batman v Superman, I was referring to like Bruce Wayne, like, you know, running towards through the smoke and shit. I think
it's all
this
about
idea
context, right? I mean, like it depends which characters you have. It depends which characters you have. And like, you know, if you have young mutants, then you're not going to tell a story about the end of the world. Like, you know, you're not going to tell a massive like world engine Man of Steel story. Like you're going to tell something that's like a smaller scale, set in one location primarily, kind of thing. My thing that kind of like worries me about this movie is that it's only 94 minutes. That's
usually a sign.
That's just above an hour and a half. This trailer shows a lot, like from different sequences in the entire movie. So I'm kind of like worried that we've seen actually quite a lot. But like at the same time, I'm a bit like, do I care? Do I actually care about this movie?
Look, like, the fact that we're talking about it is a win in their books because any other movie we probably would have ignored it. But I think what you mentioned there, look, those are telltale signs of maybe not a good movie, but a movie a studio doesn't have faith in. Because when they cut it down to be short, it's because they're trying to bump up the pacing so you don't get bored. Usually, if it's because they're showing you a lot of stuff, a lot of different stuff, it's because they're showing you everything in the movie and hoping something will stick. It's like when they're throwing shit against the wall and hoping something will stick. But yeah, we'll see. But the needle's moved a bit on this. Like, good on him.
Nice. Yeah, no, for both of us, which is, and like I'm kind of like the bar, like, you know, like you have a tendency to be like, oh, I'm down for this, you know, like I like it, whatever, and I'm just like, fuck you.
I always tell my girlfriend I will literally watch anything if it's in the cinema. As long as I'm not by myself, I will watch pretty much anything. Because if it's not a good movie or if it's not a bad movie, even if it's painfully average, I like being able to see something new and I get to think to myself as a puzzle piece, what could have made it better, or why is this great, or why is this bad? I love asking yourself those questions while seeing anything. So it doesn't really matter about the genre to me sometimes. It's more about like trying to understand why they made choices and stuff.
Nice. And this week you actually did watch anything in the movies because you watched The Vigil.
Are we segueing into
We are segueing.
Oh, you took my move, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm pretty fucking good. I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty good.
I'm gonna hand off I'm gonna pass the torch pass the segue to you.
All right, hit me with your thoughts for The Vigil.
There's something evil in this house. We have to go now.
It won't let you leave.
What won't let me leave?
If you run out, the magic will make you crawl right back.
This is a horror movie with it's like a Jewish horror movie. Yeah. It is.
Was it cheaply made?
No. As in it stars predominantly Jewish cast. It dives into the Jewish religion and culture, and it's like I don't know, like the crazy. I wouldn't call it the Crazy Rich Asians for Jewish people, but it's incredibly Jewish. And that sounds racist. I didn't mean to. I learned a lot about Jewish culture watching this film, which I found to be really interesting as someone who's really unfamiliar with that. So this movie, which I should say I saw almost no advertising for until like the week of me watching it. So I wonder what was going on there. But yeah, so it follows this character who is, I think it's pronounced a shomer. And what a shomer is, and I think it's like really traditional Jewish
Yiddish
culture, is when somebody dies, a shomer is usually a member of the family or someone they knew who watches the body pretty much every second since the point of death until the burial. And they often, I think the idea is they have to stay around. They've got to pray to it or pray with it in order to protect it from demons and spirits. And already you can probably hear me like sort of, it's in my voice, like this is a great idea for a horror film. There's so much potential with this concept. And I think that's my favorite thing about it. There's so much you could do with this idea. And even on top of that, they're very clear in the beginning. It starts with some text that explains it. If the person doesn't know anyone who within the family and all that, you can get a paid showmer who will they get paid and they go there. And that's the plot basically. This guy who I think he's got some anxiety situation going on with him because he has some medicine. So he goes to be a showmer and he's really struggling with his faith, and he has to sort of protect this thing from demons by praying and stuff. And then something goes really wrong. This place is clearly haunted. There's some sort of presence there. And then it sort of becomes you know what? It's basically like Jewish Conjuring, because it becomes very Conjuring at this point. And I think that is a really good premise for a horror movie, and it feels very fresh. That's kind of where my compliments end though, because this movie is really, really slow, which isn't a bad thing, especially if you're building up to a payoff. But there are no scares in here. I do respect the fact that the director steers away from generic scares, like jump scares and stuff. But
it's also his first movie.
Yeah, I believe I think I read somewhere he had a short or something in a really prestigious film festival, which got him recognized. I think it might have been Cannes or something. But yeah, it's his first feature in the Hollywood machine. But yeah, I feel like it's very slow, but it's slow to the point where it's pauses, nothing happens. And I don't mind a slow burn, but when you start getting boring, that's where I draw the line. And this movie is very, very boring at times. But in between those boring bits, you get some interesting ideas. There's the guy, he's really, he thinks he's hallucinating. They play with reality a lot. They have some interesting ideas in this film, but it still kind of sucks. So yeah, I'm going to give the Vigil a 5 out of 10. If it wasn't for the strong concepts, I probably would have gone a lot lower. But I think it fails as a horror movie because it never really feels like it's trying to scare me. It just feels like it's trying to creep me out. And I just think, yeah, it's a big swing and a miss, but I'd love to see this concept maybe taken on by another writer, another director, because I feel like there's a lot of potential here.
All right, interesting. I you have this thing where, and I love it, where you get your genres mean a lot to you. Especially horrors, because that's your genre. If anything, I think horror is your and Colin's genre, right? More than anything, right?
I like horror, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, genres are kind of a bit more fluid, especially lately. I remember when I was a kid, I definitely used to be into genre. It's an action movie. It needs fucking shit blowing up. It's a science fiction movie. It needs time travel. It's a romance movie. There's kissing in it. Yuck. But
yeah.
I don't know. Lately, especially with the horror genre, quote unquote, I feel like it's a bit more fluid. I feel like there's directors Jordan Peele who are using the genre of horror in a very different way. It's not really trying to scare you. It's more trying to tell a psychological horror, a psychological story, about, whatever, about history. Whereas I feel like, I don't know, I'm only saying this because the Vigil, and I trust you. I love you, and I love your reviews.
You're right.
But the Vigil is sitting at 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, meaning critics are overly leaning positive. So I'm just wondering.
Okay. To be honest,
But hold on, before you do, IMDb's IMDb score is at 5.7, which is the audience score. So it's interesting because a lot of the audience doesn't like this, but the critics love it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll be honest. I think on the day I saw it, I did see the IMDb score, but I think it was higher. To be honest, I think it was closer to a 6 or a 7. But I am thinking 5 might be a bit harsh because there are some good dramatic moments later, which is kind of that was the best stuff out of Hereditary, I would say. So you know what, revising my score, I might go to a 6, but I think an 8 or close to 9, I think that's way too high. Like, I think there is some good directing going on with like the character moments and even some good writing. Because this guy, what is good about it is like, while this character, it's a typical story of like, you know, he struggles with his faith and there's some stuff that make him question and come back. Like, they handle all that stuff actually really well, I would say. It just, whenever it tries to be a horror movie, it's like the foundations aren't there. Like it just goes, a guy gets creeped out and that's it. Like, I never really fully am scared for his life. I never really think, I'm like, oh, some creepy shit's going on, but I never actually am like, okay, I don't know. So yeah, I think maybe I can see why critics might like it more than audience, because critics are generally, you know, they're more critical. They want to look for the art and things rather than the entertainment factor, I would say. Like, audience, I would say prioritize entertainment, while critics would prioritize like
I agree
art
with that, yeah.
And craft and stuff like that. And I feel like I sit in the middle where I can lean both ways when I judge something. So yeah, but I just feel like at the end of the day, I got bored during this movie. And hey, Zoheb, what's your number one rule?
Don't get bored.
Yeah. And it was funny because I was
boring. Don't be boring. Don't get bored.
Yeah. It's funny because like when you're looking at something like The Nun, where I'm literally bored for the entire middle section, I would be bored, but I'd only be bored for like a scene or two. So there are good moments sprinkled throughout. It's just everything between those good moments, it's just dead air to me.
So is it kind of like a pacing thing? Like do you think it kind of drags at points, or like, because like we talked about this offline. Like I handle slow burns a little bit better than you, I think. Like I think I prefer a slow burn over many movies actually.
I think yes and no. I think the problem for me is, yeah, it's slow, but when it builds up to something that isn't, I feel like the slowness must be as good as the epicness. Like, for example, Breaking Bad, right? That can be a slow show, especially in the earlier seasons. I would say it's pretty slow, but there's always these amazing, crazy, huge moments that make the wait worth it. And in fact, then as the show goes on, I found like I was appreciating the slow bits because they're actually setting building blocks.
Payoff.
To make that big payoff. I feel like this movie, it lacks.
So you don't think there's a payoff?
Not really. Like,
okay.
Nothing that I found exciting or horrific or, you know.
And
I feel like
a
horror movie can live and die by that, I feel.
I agree. There's a movie I'm thinking about specifically called The Invitation. We actually covered it on the podcast. It's a horror movie. It was directed by Karen Kusama. I wasn't on that episode. We had technical issues, but it was Colin and Matt from LSG Media who covered that movie. Really great movie, and it is a movie that if you wanted to put it in a genre, it would fall into the horror genre. But that being said, it is a slow burn, but it builds up to a massive explosive sequence. Like, you know, it builds up to a massive payoff. So, you know, like, and, you know, like if you watch that movie again, you'll find different things because you've seen that payoff now. Like, Vigil doesn't have that kind of thing. The rewatchability factor as well.
Oh, I don't think it's watchable at all. I think maybe the closest thing I could compare it to is something like Hereditary, which is a film that a lot of people like that I personally am not crazy about. But what I think where something like Hereditary shines is like, you know, the dramatic moments and the character work is really good. And they have those scenes that sort of make everything else kind of worth it for me. I feel like this doesn't do it to the extent Hereditary would. And yeah, that's
I like it. I like your take. And I like grilling you on shit.
I like it too. Challenge me. I like to be challenged.
Awesome, dude. I'll go get my fucking branding iron. I can brand you on the ass.
All right, so what's next?
Well, we got Bad Education. So Bad Education was a movie that I watched this week. This is a new release from HBO Films, of all people.
Do they do many films?
No, they don't.
I've never heard of HBO Films until I think right now.
So HBO Films, I mean, like, I know that they bought the movie Bad Education for like $17 million from like Toronto Film Festival, which is huge.
Hang on, is this for HBO Go?
No, HBO.
Okay.
Please join me in welcoming to the stage our district superintendent and my friend, Frank Tassone. In Long Island, the town is only as good as its
public schools. The better the school system, the higher the price tag on the homes.
These are the best early decision numbers that we've ever seen.
I wanted to make a difference. I got us all the way to number 4, and I will get us to number 1.
Get us to first. That's all that matters.
Hey, Frank.
Yeah.
I've been doing some digging. I'm concerned with what I found.
All right, let me get into this. So, Bad Education is a true story. It stars Hugh Jackman and Allison Janney. Hugh Jackman, we all love. Like, I goddamn love Hugh Jackman. Allison Janney was, she won an Oscar for I, Tonya. She's been in a bunch of things, 10 Things I Hate About You, whatever. The movie is a true story, and it talks about this guy, Dr. Frank Tassone, played by Hugh Jackman, and this woman, goddamn, I'm forgetting. Oh, Pam Gluckin, played by Allison Janney, and what they are, they're higher ups at like a school kind of like district. So, Hugh Jackman is a superintendent, Super Nintendo Chalmers, as Ralph would say, and Pam Gluckin is a assistant, superintendent. So what happens is, there's this young girl at the school. She's a student. She's doing a paper, like a student newspaper, and she wants to look into this thing called the Skywalk. And the Skywalk is basically this thing that the school's planning to build, so students can walk from one side of the school to the other, what have you, right? So the girl has to go into all these like files and stuff, and she finds these papers, and she's like, "Hey, this says that we were supposed to get this appliance for the kitchen, but you don't sell these like to students. So I'm wondering where this like went." And Allison Janney.
Wait, and this is like a high school student?
This is a high school student. She is very, very investigative.
Wow.
And Allison Janney basically tells her to fuck off. Like,
As you would, yeah.
Come to find out that Allison Janney is, because she's in charge of the accounts, taking thousands and thousands of dollars, deleting them from the system from the school and providing it to herself, like personally. So she's embezzling the money that is public money, that is money given by the taxpayers, and using it for herself. She's planning a renovation. She's buying shit for like her family, whatever. So the
like
board,
a 16-year-old kid finds this out.
Right. Well, I mean, like, it's partial. So like there's other factors at play here, but like there's the kid is kind of like at the heart of it. So the school board, like the board of directors, go up to Hugh Jackman, who's the superintendent, and they're like, "All right, man, we gotta fire this bitch. We gotta let her go because this is too bad." And Hugh Jackman's character Tassone says, he rationalizes it. He says, "Man, can you, like, if this gets out, this will like publicly ruin the school. We are doing so well with our test scores. Our students have like a high level of advantageness to get into universities, good universities. So our school, we're going to be ruined by that reputation. Our auditor missed this. Our auditor is a fucking idiot who like missed all of these like huge sums missing. Plus, like, it's going to look like that we were just stupid because we didn't see any of this come through." So he talks the board out of it. Come to find out, and spoilers here, come to find out that Hugh Jackman is a part of the take as well.
Of course, it's his assistant. It was probably his idea or some shit, right?
Right. Well, I mean, yes and no. So like, there's just so much. It's such a sprawling story, and it's true. I looked into it. The way it finishes is fantastic. It's actually a really, really great movie. The tone of it is something that I really wanted to talk about. It's directed by a guy named Corey Finley, and the tone of it is kind of like Fargo, the TV show Fargo. It's got these.
So that's why I love it. Okay, makes sense now.
It's got these very like heavy. It's got these heavy, like, very dramatic moments, but it's underscored by like this dark kind of like comedy. Like, there's like these like little like brushes of comedy, and like they're highlighted by these like really weird kind of like musical notes, like, which Fargo does really well.
All right.
So, I mean, like, I personally, I love that. Like, like, I like something that kind of like goes against the grain. I like something that doesn't fit into, again, a genre. I like something that, it's not a drama, it's not a comedy, it's more of like a dramedy, for lack of a better term. And it was a riveting watch from start to finish. Like, I was initially a bit lost, like the tone difference is a little startling. It's like, where's this going kind of thing. But once it kicks into gear, dude, it's really, really good. I watched it on binge. It's available on HBO, and I highly recommend it. I'd probably give it an 8. So, yeah.
There's this new trend, I'd say, over the last 5 years, which I love, actually. A lot of true stories like upping the comedy value. Have you noticed that? I actually really like that. I think it's a great way to...
Like what examples you got?
Oh, like Vice, for example, is a great one.
Oh, yeah.
Wolf of Wall Street.
But that's Adam McKay, yeah.
Yeah, like, I know there's a bunch more, but yeah, I think it's a great way of dealing with that, especially if it's like a ridiculous situation. Like, I don't know how it's tackled in Bad Education, but I think it's a really great way. I think, like, for example, edutainment is a great idea. I love seeing shows like Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, where they combine information with comedy. And I think that's always a great way to do stuff. And as someone who's never been... I remember growing up, I used to hate true story films because I always like just very standard dramas. I was a young kid, so I couldn't appreciate that shit.
We were
back
so
then.
different when we were coming up, dude. I love it.
But I know I think my mum like loves stuff like that. So maybe as a kid, I was like, "Fuck you, mum!" Like, who knows? But nowadays, but nowadays I have a much bigger appreciation for that. But I really love it when I can see a true story. And they sort of like mix genre into it, even if it's not comedy. But like, yeah, I always think that's really cool.
It is, and I like it, man. Like, because again, it prevents it from becoming really one note and really like dour, like, you know. But I mean, I like that shit. Like, Zodiac is one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is a true story. Like, you know, because that tone fits that kind of like story. Like, it fits that killer's angle. Like, it fits the whole atmosphere. It's fantastic. Whereas the Bad Education, it's funny because like I think you can write a story like this to be one note. Like you can write it to be super dark. You can write it to be really like, you know, like a heavy drama. But it's going to be the director who comes in there and changes that up. Like, you know, it's going to be the director who like really changes the style of it.
I imagine tackling a true story as a director must be such a massive challenge because you've got to do, well, at least the writing, I reckon the writing would be such a massive challenge because you got to like get your facts straight for starters, right? So unless you're adapting a book, like how much research must you do, interviews, you want it to be accurate, right? And then you've got to also make it interesting, entertaining, and make it fit like a structure of a Hollywood film. I remember like Bohemian Rhapsody got some criticism because they literally changed the order of things to happen so it fit a more sort of typical like structure for those sort of like biographical film. Sorry, not autobiographical.
I barely consider that a true story as well. Like,
like it's like a music montage if anything, really. But
I think Vice might be the best example here because Vice can be like, if on paper it could be a really dark story about how this one guy, like, you know, influenced the government and sent troops into war and basically changed like the entire administration, like from behind the scenes. But Adam McKay finds a way to really make that clever and hilarious at times.
Such a genius, man. Such a genius.
Yeah,
but I think let's move on, shall we?
Yeah, let's move on to something that you watch because I will never watch this in my life, probably. Let's talk about Eurovision. Eurovision. Okay, hold on. Full title, right? I hate this title. Eurovision Song Contest: The Story of Fire Saga.
Ever since we were children, we've had one dream.
Winning the Eurovision Song Contest.
All right, everyone. I am Lars. This is Sigrid. We are Fire Saga.
Who wants to hear a Eurovision song?
Shortly before the trailer came out, I saw the amazingly terrible film. Actually, it's not even amazing. It's just bad. Holmes and Watson. Fucking terrible. I couldn't even finish it, and I tried twice.
I had friends who actually like walked out of that movie, like in the cinema.
It's so fucking bad. And so when I see a trailer for this, obviously, I look at it. It goes, okay, direct to Netflix. Okay. Will Ferrell is once again in a colorful, wacky comedy where he's putting on an accent. And when you see a film based on European characters, my mind, I don't know if yours does, it goes to some of like the real bad comedies, especially like from the 90s and early 2000s, where accents were like the peak epitome of comedy, aka most of Adam Sandler's career, that sort of shit. So obviously, I put off watching this for a while, and then I decided to watch it because I was a bit curious, mostly because I thought it'd be terrible, especially because like I think the top three bill, like most of the main cast aren't even European. They are like Americans putting on accents. So I'm like, okay, this can't be good. So I watched the first few scenes. It's actually all right. And I'm like, okay, well, Holmes and Watson's best scene was the first scene, and it was fucking bad, but still. 20 minutes into this movie, dude, I'm actually liking it. And I can't believe I'm going to say it. This movie's actually pretty good for what it is. And
I hate you so much.
And
right
you're gonna hear me say this a lot. For what it is, because this movie is not what you expect it to be. And it's all because it stars Will Ferrell. This does not feel like a Will Ferrell project at all. And why he's front and center baffles me, but I'm going to get into that later. Okay, so this movie, if you are especially like a young person, a fan of Eurovision, especially if you're like a fan of shows like Glee, which I'm not, this movie is so up your alley. It follows a very like sort of pretty much generic plot of like, you know, underdogs who enter a competition, blah, blah, blah. We wish we were the movie Dodgeball, etc. But it nails that like pretty well. The execution's pretty well. But even though I'm not a hardcore Eurovision watcher, I can definitely tell that this is like a love letter to that. And the team behind it are clearly big fans. And so after watching it, I did some research, and this movie is packed with like references. In fact, almost every song in this film, and it's essentially a musical. It's not like a traditional musical because most of the songs are performed on stage except for one. But they're all like references or inspired by previous things. Most of the supporting cast and extras look like they're authentic of who they're supposed to be. I'm pretty sure all the Iceland stuff might be shot in Iceland, or if not, it's very convincing. And they even like dive into like, you know, Icelandic folklore and some other stuff. And if it wasn't for Will Ferrell in it and a few select scenes, you wouldn't think of this as a Will Ferrell project. There are a couple scenes with like, okay, let Will Ferrell be Will Ferrell, and he has his type of scenes where he gets to freak out and stuff. But outside of that, it's like this underdog story of these two friends who may or may not be brother and sister. They never fully touch on that. Who no one believes in them, and they have a dream and they chase the dream, they get the dream, and yay. Throughout it, the song performances are pretty good, except for when Will Ferrell sings, because he's clearly auto-tuned like crazy. And there's even a scene that features like a lot of Eurovision contestants in the past. So again, if you're a fan of that shit, this movie's for you. Now, admittedly, I'm not, but I can appreciate with what they've done. And yeah, I think they've done a good job with that. Now, here's my biggest criticism of this film, because it's definitely not perfect. A lot of the comedy is very hit and miss. A lot of it is very, it's not a big laugh. But the biggest problem, sadly, is Will Ferrell. And so I really hate to say it because I did some extra research. He was a co-writer on this film. He helped produce it. Apparently, he's a huge fan of Eurovision. His wife, I think, is Swedish. And like their family, they're big fans of it. And so that's probably why it's so authentic. Like he's an actual fan. His like team would have done a lot of research, but he feels so out of place because everyone in this movie is like half his age. For the exception of the character who plays his dad, which is Pierce Brosnan, fucking James Bond, who everyone knows as, I fucked up his last name, didn't I?
No, it's Brosnan, but he was my pick. He was my pick. If you listen to the Dark Knight Returns episode, if we were to do a live action movie, he was my pick for Bruce Wayne.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, he's got the chin. He's got the Bruce Wayne chin, so I like it.
And he's also got the grey, grizzled, like if you look at a photo of him now, he looks literally like that guy.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. But yeah, like he does not pass as Icelandic at all. Like his accent comes through pretty strong, which is like Irish American. Although what is cool at the end, during the credits and stuff, during all the actors' names, they put like a flag of their country next to it. And everyone has one except for Pierce Brosnan, who has both America and Ireland. And I really like the fact that they didn't try and cover that. Like, they owned it. And so, like, extra point to them. But yeah, Will Ferrell seems so out of place. He is, at all times, twice the age of everyone in the room. And they don't try and hide it. Like, they say he's like a middle-aged man who lives at home with his parents because they're trying to recapture stepbrothers. And he can't sing for shit. Like, he sounds like a fucking robot because they auto-tuned the fuck out of him. And I know he's the biggest star power in the film, but, like, I really think the film could have been better if they just cast someone younger and more talented with singing. I've got one more note to put in this film, and you're going to fucking slap me, Zoheb. I think this is a contender for the Oscars. But, hear me out. Best song. Best original song. Not for acting, not for director. Best original song. There's a song called something Icelandic that translates to My Hometown, and it is very Frozen-y and very much like that song that was nominated from Moana. I forget what that one was called. It was done by Lin-Manuel, whatever. That song, it's pretty good, and it sounds something like the Oscars would like, especially since I think it was very inspired by Frozen. It's got similar vibes. So I think everything else in this film, you know, I'm not saying it's potential for a Razzie, but if it got nominated, I wouldn't be that surprised. Again, Will Ferrell seems like he does not fit in almost every scene. But for what it is, yeah, this movie's not bad, and I'm giving it a legitimate 7 out of 10. It's actually kind of okay.
That review gave me herpes. Yeah, I have genital warts.
Oh, fuck.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, okay.
It's definitely a step up from Holmes and Watson. Like, and I think Will Ferrell has been eating a lot of shit lately.
Yeah,
he's done a lot of bad films. This is, I'm not saying it's like a comeback, but it's definitely better than a lot of the shit he's been doing lately.
It's interesting you say that because, like, this is something that I was, like, kind of, like, actively shitting on. And, like, look, I'm not really, I hate being that kind of person where I'm just like, if I see a trailer, I don't like the trailer and I'm shitting on it. You know, I didn't give it a chance. But at the same time, like, I'm hearing people being like, oh, yeah, it's okay, whatever. It's not a dumpster fire like Holmes and Watson. So
it's surprising how not shit it is because all the signs point to bad movie, but it's not bad for what it is.
You know what I just noticed? Like, what? So why do you have your Apple headphones on and your actual headphones?
Because these ones are for my mic and these ones are for the phone which I'm speaking to you with.
That's interesting. That's cool. That's how the sausage gets made, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and since this is a audio only podcast, our audience will appreciate this section of the show.
Yeah, it's all right. You know what? Fuck it. Who cares? It's not getting cut out. All right, let's move on to something that we both saw this week, and that is Unhinged.
You know what a courtesy tap is, young man? Sounds like this. It's light. It's friendly. I'm sure that's what your mom meant to do.
No, it's not. Mom!
Having a kind of a hard time lately. I'm sorry. Accept my apology?
Just ignore him.
Well, if you could just do the same, we could press reset.
I don't have anything to apologize for.
Since the movies have come back in Sydney, this has been like the first like film I've seen that benefits from a cinematic experience.
See, I don't know, because I think King of Staten Island did that for me. I mean, like, I appreciated being in a cinema. Yeah, I mean, look, I know that it's telling like a small scale story, like that you can probably enjoy from home, but I think it was kind of like amplified, like how much it hit me because I'm sitting there in a cold, dark, like room with a massive screen and, you know, like huge sound. Like, I don't know, maybe I think the cinematic experience is something that I really vouch for. And, you know, like the King of Staten Island, because it was a new movie and we were back for like, you know, since Bloodshot. It really hit home for me. So
that feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Go on to your thoughts.
It's interesting that you say that though. Like this is a $33 million movie. You know, it is big, it is loud. So I 100% get what you're saying. Like, you know,
yeah, like there's a shot. It's in the trailer where like a truck smashes through a car, and I'm just remember thinking like the surround sound and the audio. It's like I would have appreciated this less if I watched this on my laptop.
Did you watch it at the extreme screen, Blacktown?
No, I saw this at Burwood, and it was Extreme Screen actually, but I saw it on like one of those day beds.
Okay. So, oh wow, that's pretty cool. So, in addition to isolating pretty much all of our listeners because it's not a visual medium, we've also isolated all of our international listeners because they have no idea what we're talking about. But no, look, let's get into this. It was okay. It was all right. You know, it didn't suck ass. Like, you know, like the trailers kind of made it out to be this somewhat like slasher film, like road rage, whatever. It had some pretty good ideas. You know, the acting was great. Like, you know, that's what you expect out of Russell Crowe. Even the lead actress as well was pretty decent. I can't remember. Karen Pistorius was pretty good. I actually really like Jimmy Simpson, who is from Westworld. He's from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He plays one of the McBoyles. So yeah, look, it was. I know he loves his milk. Man. But yeah, look, I think it was okay. You know, it was a 90-minute kind of like thrill ride, right? Like once it kicks off, it never stops, it never lets up. It was fun, you know. I don't think it's got anything else past that though. Like if you were to grab a measuring stick and see how deep this film is, you will like not get past like a centimeter, dude. It is like it is so thin. Like what you see is what you get. I want to talk about really quickly Russell Crowe. He is a blimp in this movie. Like, he is a behemoth. And look, I'm not fat shaming. I'm fat, so it's okay. But
but he's behemoth in the sense,
wait,
I would say.
Hold on.
Okay.
Because I feel like what you're going to say is what I'm going to say. The director used his behemothedness to his advantage because the close-ups of his face are so unsettling and so disgusting looking, dude. He's always sweating. He's always like, you know, like his
it's
eyes
intentionally
like,
disgusting. That
right
just for the record, yeah,
exactly. And the director did such a great job at like really amplifying that. You know, I watched this on the biggest screen in New South Wales. Like, you know, like I watched this at Extreme Screen, Cinema 5, Blacktown, and you know, like when they blow up his face, dude, it's like literally like right there. Like, and I'm just like, I feel like he's staring into my soul, especially like, you know, especially the opening scene when he's like flicking the match and shit. You see his grubby fingers. Like, you know, like the director does a really good job at like subtly making this guy a monster before we even see his monstrous acts.
I just want to make one reference for people who aren't sort of getting where Zob's coming from. Think Kingpin Vincent D'Onofrio from Daredevil. Like the guy is large in terms of weight, but he's also a massive threatening menace. And when the camera doesn't get him right, he just looks like a fat dad. But when the camera does get him right, it's like Jason Voorhees, but he can talk, use your phone, and do some like actually like threatening and realistically threatening shit.
Sometimes realistic. So, like, okay, look.
To an extent.
Right. I mean, like, there's a moment where they're at the gas station and, like, you know, like, he, in that time that she was inside, was able to take her phone and plant her iPad under the passenger seat. I'm just like, wow, what? Like, you're telling me this
an
guy...
hour for that.
Yeah, you're telling me this guy who weighs 300 kilos is probably going to have a fucking cardiovascular heart attack in, like, a second. Like, did all this, like, in a moment's notice.
And he happened to have duct tape on him and knew what he was going to do with it.
Right. I do want to point out something that really surprised me about this movie is just how brutal it was. Man, was this movie gorgeously beautifully brutal. Yeah. Like, you know, like the opening scene with the double homicide, right? Like, it's just like, whoa, okay, that was cool. And then, you know, the movie has the balls to kill off, like, innocent civilians as well. Like, you know, like I think it's her brother, right? Like the one that, like he ends up being alive, but who was before that? I can't remember.
There was the guy at the gas station.
Guy at the gas station. Over.
Yeah. And then there was the McBoyle dude. He smashed the coffee mug into his face.
Yes.
That was violent as fuck. And and no one sees that kill coming. It's crazy good.
Because I'm like, okay, he's in a public area. Like, you know, he's not gonna do this. He's not gonna be able to pull this off. But then I'm like, hold on. This guy is just going through a divorce. He's just very kind of like publicly and nonchalantly killed his ex-wife and her new lover. Like, this guy wants suicide by cop, and then literally 2 minutes later he says, "You think I care about the police? I'm all about suicide by cop." And I was like, "Oh fuck yeah!"
Yeah.
So I was on board with that, man. I really enjoyed this movie. It's not it's not my standard like movie going like thing that I seek out. Maybe kind of like something if I want to switch my brain off, like kind of like in a Transformers way, or like I don't know, Friday 13th remake way kind of thing, right? So I'm probably going to give it maybe a 6.
Okay. Is this movie great and amazing? No. Do I fucking love this movie? Yes.
Yeah, I feel like this movie was made for you. Like, I was just like, Matt's going to fucking love this.
Look, I went in honestly not thinking it'd be that great because, like, look, going into it, I'm getting flashbacks to Halle Berry's Kidnapped. It overly feels like a B-grade film. And I remember going into it thinking, what the fuck is Russell Crowe doing in this movie? He's got better things to do. But honestly, it's my favorite performance of his in a while. Because he actually comes across. But that was like what, 10 years ago?
5.
5?
6, 4. Sorry.
Oh, is that it? Okay, I thought it was way longer. But yeah, he's actually great, and I don't know. Like at times it's a thriller, but at times like you get slasher vibes. But it's like a really. You were talking earlier about like a blending of genres. I feel like it's kind of blending the two in a way. Because it's very, if you want to call it a slasher, sort of, but it's a very non-traditional one. But so I guess it's kind of closer to a thriller. But like the way you fear this one person and the shit he'll do, it's kind of horrific at times. Maybe you're not like screaming and hugging a teddy bear in your sleep, but you are generally concerned at what he'll do. The writer and director did a great job of making you feel like, oh shit, this guy will literally do anything. There is nothing off the table. And I think in watching this in the year 2020, after we've seen so much crazy shit in the news, a person going to these lengths feels plausible. It feels crazy. Now, what isn't plausible is the way he does some of this shit. Like the way that he's able to get her phone and do all these things. Yes, they explain it all. But the fact that like, also there's a lot of coincidences. Like the fact that he's able to find her so much and at all these places and
that's because he's got the iPad.
But even before that, how did he bump into her at the petrol station? Did he follow her?
I think he followed her.
I guess that's the implication, right? But, you know, and even how he got the iPad is a whole thing. And like he also gets shot in the arm.
To do that, he would have had to rummage around in her back seat, which probably would have taken a little while. So I'm just like, I don't.
How would he know it's there? Then you would have to get tape it under the seat, but also think to steal her phone, also open her door. And he's like a 300-pound man. Like someone's going to see him doing this shit, you know? Especially since she notices him while she's still in the store, and he's sitting in the seat. So he must have done this in like space of 30 seconds. I don't know. But also like, he gets shot in the shoulder at one point and like he acts like it hurts for like one scene. And then all of a sudden the bullet wound's gone. It's just a little blood patch and he's totally okay again for the rest of the film. Like I know we have to have some level of disbelief, but I feel like this film, it goes over that line at least twice for me. But I'm willing to forgive it for the sake of entertainment. And yeah, but it loses a point for that. I think, yeah, like you said, the kills are brutal. I had a lot of fun watching it. I'm going to give this I'm giving it an 8 by B movie standards. Because it knows it's a B rated, it knows it's a B film, and it owns it in the best ways without making a joke of itself. I do also want to say though, one of my big criticisms as well is this movie could have been better. It could have been an 8 by normal film standards. If they just did something, literally anything with like the content of he's a guy who's mentally ill. He's off the edge. It's kind of like the reverse of, it's kind of like sort of saying what Joker has in a little bit, where it's kind of like society's done this to me, or life's done this to me.
They did. It was there. Like, it was just kind of like very in the background, which I really appreciated. It was like on like a TV. Like the brothers there sitting like eating like breakfast or some shit, and you can hear like the news report in the background, like, you know, they're talking about the double homicide at the start of the movie, and then they're like, the suspect has had has been in and out of rehab while having drinking problems, kind of thing. Like, you know, there's like, they give you like background information in a really subtle way, which I really kind of like appreciated.
Yeah, but the way they use it, I feel, is for exposition uses, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But I wish they were able to do something maybe in the end, like, because at the end of the day, the message of this film,
that's what I'm saying. There's no message. Like, it's shallow as fuck.
Like they try to do something, but it's incredibly shallow. Which is, the message is, don't road rage, and they sum it all up with one shot where someone cuts her off. She goes to honk the horn, and she chooses not to. Well, this is the longest PSA in the history of cinema.
I'll tell you what I like though. I like that there was no kind of like last ditch kind of like, oh, he's alive, like he's gonna get you, like in fucking, what is it, Friday, Nightmare on Elm Street, when Friday the 13th, where like he reaches out from beneath the boat, like, you know, like they always do it, like, you know, he's always alive.
They could have very easily done this with this film, because honestly, like, this concept and this character,
I would have taken off like 5 points for that, and I only gave it a 6.
This movie is basically American Wolf Creek.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, like, it's kind of, so they could have made a franchise out of this, and by killing him off, they're gonna have. I honestly can't see them doing an Unhinged 2 where it's like a different actor. But that would suck. That would definitely suck. But you know,
there's
Hollywood,
a movie like
probably
this that's out already, and it was pretty good. It's called Falling Down with Michael Douglas. Really good. It's about a guy who's like sitting in traffic and everything is bugging him, everything is annoying, and he just ends up going on like a rampage, and you see it from his perspective. So you kind of like, you don't see it from like a third person's perspective. You see it from like what Russell Crowe's perspective in this movie would be. It's pretty good.
What's that movie? What's that movie?
Falling Down.
I gotta check it out. But yeah, I think they could have done more.
Directed by Joel Schumacher, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, I'd put this up with like that genre of movies. You'd put movies like Phone Booth, or fucking
Phone Book.
Even I'd watch that. Or fucking even like Speed. Like, it's a little dumb.
Don't put it up there with Speed, dude.
But like, in terms of concept, like, it's a little dumb, but it's fun. I would not say it's as good as Speed, that's for sure.
It's like, you know, in Family Guy when they're racing horses, and like, I think it's like someone gets like a retarded horse, and I know you can't say retarded, but like literally like Lois is like, Peter, which one's your horse? It's like, that one, and he points and it's like running all weird. This movie is like that, but all the other movies in the race are like Scream and like Psycho and Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, you know, that's this movie.
I wouldn't put it like that, but I had a good time with it, even though it's a bit of a dumb film, but I liked it. All right, and is that all for our reviews this week?
That's all for our reviews, dude. Let's move on to the MDF game, which we did not officially have this week because we were lazy. But to celebrate Spider-Man Day, right? To celebrate Spider-Man Day, we are going to talk about our favorite on-screen iteration of Marvel Spider-Man.
Hang on, Zohab. What is Spider-Man Day?
It's Spider-Man Day. It's like the day. I think it's the day that they're celebrating, like the first appearance.
The 1st of April is Spider-Man Day. It celebrates 58 years of Marvel's Spider-Man. Okay,
it's August.
What?
It's August right now.
What did I say?
He said 1st of April.
Oh, I meant August. Wrong A. I never knew there was a Spider-Man Day. Damn. Okay, well, favorite Spider-Man. Who you got?
There we go. So favorite well, we got a guess, dude. Like, I love how like enthusiastic you were just now. You're just like, who you got, bitch? All right. Well, look, I'm gonna guess yours.
What's the criteria? Is it favorite person portraying Spider-Man or favorite Spider-Man like trilogy?
No. What? No. What the fuck? Where'd you get that? What's your favorite on-screen iteration of Marvel's web slinger? So, like, who was your favorite Spider-Man? Which actor? So, but don't say it. Let me guess. I'm just gonna straight up say Tom Holland.
No.
Okay. Tobey Maguire.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Look, I feel like you're going for favorite Spider-Man movie.
No.
And I disagree.
No.
Oh,
no.
All right.
I would say, because here's what I'm thinking. The Amazing Spider-Man films is the worst trilogy of the three, but I think Andrew Garfield was the most charismatic.
So is your favorite on-screen iteration of Spider-Man?
Well, of Peter Parker.
No, both. There's both. That's the criteria. It's both.
Then it's got to be Tobey Maguire. He has the best suit. He has the best suit, and he has the best personal life storylines.
Okay,
but Andrew Garfield has his scenes with Emma Stone, which are like filled with charisma, and I think he has the best humor of all of them. I think Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man has the best personality, but he also has the worst movies though. So you see where I'm struggling?
I see where you're struggling.
I think the Spider-Man is my favorite of the three, but it's my least favorite movies. If you took that Spider-Man out and put him in like something like Homecoming, I'd be like, oh, this is the best movie ever made.
I'm seeing where you're struggling, and I think they fixed that issue, and it was Tom Holland Spider-Man. Okay, so look.
No, because Tom Holland's Spider-Man is a completely different take. He's super young, he's super inexperienced, he's looking up to people, but like...
Right. But different take,
Andrew Garfield,
not like so he's still Spider-Man.
But Andrew Garfield, like he was cocky. I liked his cockiness because that was the closest to the comics that I liked. Tom Holland's Spider-Man is not cocky. He's all like,
pause right there.
Mr. Stark,
pause,
Mr. Stark.
Pause right there, because that's where you have the difference of opinion. So you're coming at this from a Spider-Man comic book lovers perspective, whereas I'm like, I have never read a Spider-Man comic in my life. So, like I'm like taking this on 100% face value and being like, this is what Spider-Man is to me. Whereas like for you, it's like, this is the one that's most comic book accurate, which in my opinion, I think that to be the most comic book accurate is actually
No. I'm not saying
negative?
that. I'm saying my favorite thing about Spider-Man from the comics was his personality. And Andrew Garfield represents that his performance represents that personality to me.
Okay. So but Peter Parker
Amazing
or
Spider-Man 2 is
both.
the worst Spider-Man film of all of them. Like I'd say it's worse than Spider-Man 3. So
it's garbage.
Yeah. But Tom Holland, like his films have the best storyline and maybe best character work. But it also has the worst suit by far, I would say. I hate because it looks too rubbery and CGI-y.
No, okay, I agree with that. Like it's supposed to fit in with the Marvel aesthetic, right? But like, I think physically it looks fantastic. I really hate it. If you were to actually make that suit and not be like a CG suit and have him standing there, I like the border around his eyes. Like I like the
eyes are the best part. The fact that they move, that's cool.
Yeah, I love that. Like, and I like the minimalist of it. Like, like the spider's very small. Like, it's not overt or anything like that. I like the hand shooters, whatever the fuck you want to call them.
Yeah. I just feel like I can't reach out and touch him. Like, I feel like he feels too
It's a bit rapey.
No. Like, I can't imagine me shaking his hand. Like, it just doesn't feel real. It, like, even when it's real, like, I can't tell when it's real or when it's CGI because it always looks CGI to me. Even when it's probably not, like, especially in Civil War, but I think that's because they actually CGI'd it there because of, like, hiding the fact and stuff. I think the best that looked was maybe the latest one, but my favorite suit was Tobey Maguire because, like, that's a fucking cool suit.
It is a cool suit. I actually really like that suit, like, with the ridges and stuff, but he's a fucking terrible Peter Parker. I'm sorry, dude. He's so bad.
He's awkward,
he's 30
right?
He's years old. He's supposed to be in high school. He's 30 years old. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, you could say the same thing about Andrew Garfield, I guess. Like, he looks too old for high school, but at least they aged up everyone else in his high school. And the fact that he's, like, skinny and he's on, like,
Was Garfield in college or high school?
Oh, maybe it was college. I don't know.
I think actually. One of them was, like, college.
But he had a skateboard and, like, everyone else looked like his age. And, like, I could buy it with him. I can't buy it with Tobey Maguire, especially like later on when he starts getting like the double chin. He looks like an adult man. He's a man. He's a Spider-Man.
Okay, but like here's also another thing, dude. Tobey Maguire's like testy pops. I have to get to Mr. Connor's Dr. Connor's class. Like that shit, dude. Ugh. Like, and his crying face. He's got the ugliest crying face on the planet.
Yeah. And look, I know some people who will defend him and they'll say, oh, well, he's a nerd. He's a dork. I'm like, yeah, and maybe that's a bit more realistic in a way, but like that makes him less cinematically entertaining to me, you know? And Andrew Garfield, he has that, man. He's a dream love boy. Edward Cullen, sparkling in the sky motherfucker. He's a pretty boy. And I know how Tom Holland kind of has, I think he does have the best of both worlds in that regard, but like Andrew Garfield, like again, like I love how when I love in the first one, right? Where the guy's got the knife, he's like, oh no, small knives, I'm so scared. And like he's gone from this dorky kid who gets bullied to like this overconfident, cocky guy who's so fun to watch. I love that. I just wish his movies, especially the second one, wasn't so shit. And the first one wasn't so generic.
But I with Holland's one, I like the nervous energy, like like the like if you throw something at him, like I mean he's gonna catch it because it's Spider-Man, but if you throw something at it, he's gonna be like
he's gonna fumble. Oh, sorry, Mr. Stark. Oh,
right,
yeah,
exactly. Like I kind of like the whole kid like wanting a mentor, like wanting like some direction in life kind of thing, and like when he becomes Spider-Man, like he's consistently reaching out for help. Like he's still, because you got to remember, he's still a kid, like he's in high school. He's consistently asking his friend Ned for help. Like he's consistently asking Iron Man for help. So like I like, because it's like, look, you gotta take it as like different times, right? Like, I mean, it's Marvel's take on it and stuff like that. I don't know. I just really gravitate towards Tom Holland's like acting style too. Like those, just how casual like he is. Let's talk a bit about Shameik Moore.
I just want to just add to that. That is why I think he has the best storylines. And I will bring this up as many times as I can. The scene of him and Michael Keaton in the car, that's probably the best scene in all the Spider-Man films to me. Because as a kid, like that's where it shines, the concept of having him as so young. Because he's actually super intimidating, and it makes the villain so much more scarier and impactful. And that's when it starts feeling less Marvel-y. You know how like Marvel, sometimes it's just like, oh, fight another million silver grey robots with no consequences. Like
I think that's a bit reductive. I get what you're saying, but yeah, that's
I'm exaggerating, but like I never feel that in any of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, because his age puts him at a disadvantage at all times, and that always adds more drama and stakes to every action scene. But absolutely. I put that down to writing, and if you want my favorite Spider-Man as the person who plays him, I've got to say Andrew Garfield. That's why I got to defend. That's why I've got so many asterisks in my choice.
I think you can make a pretty good case for. Yeah, it's Tom Holland without a doubt. I think you can make a pretty good case for Shameik Moore as well. Like I mean, sure, he's a voice, but he was really like I remember. I think we were driving back from Spider-Verse, you and I, and I was like, I don't really love it. I don't really love his voice, blah blah. But like that. I drew that down to me not knowing or understanding Miles Morales, because Miles Morales is not a character that I was introduced to at all in any media. But I like the more I watch that movie, the more I kind of like fall in love with his Spider-Man. So I given more movies, I think Shameik Moore might really overtake Tom Holland as my Spider-Man.
Look, I think the fact that it's an animated film weirdly puts it at a slight disadvantage, because it's also a different Spider-Man, you could say. Like, realistically, if we're comparing Peter Parker Spider-Man, we shouldn't be talking about Shameik Moore. We should be talking about, who was it Jake Johnson as the mentor Spider-Man?
But I mean, look,
hypothetically, because that's the same character. Different. It's the same character theoretically, but like if we're talking like mainline, the main protagonist Spider-Man, we would say him. And I think what's cool about him is like he kind of does take the best of everything. Like the coolness factor, I like an Andrew Garfield. I see in Miles Morales. The young like awkwardness and stuff you get from Tom Holland, you also get in Miles Morales. Like he does seem a combination of all the great stuff. I think the reason it just doesn't jump out to me is that there's so many other things I like about the movie so much that maybe outshines it in my mind.
Right, he's like the fourth or fifth best thing in that movie, and that's a compliment to the movie, right? Exactly.
Yes. It's got like. I think you could argue it's the best written Spider-Man film out of all of them, possibly.
It's my favorite Spider-Man movie out of all of them.
It is my favorite. I don't know my favorite. I haven't thought about it.
We'll be here forever if you keep thinking about this. So.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Because honestly, maybe my favorite one's Spider-Man 2, which is a fucking Tobey Maguire film. See, that's why it's a hard question, man, because there's never been, we haven't seen a bad Spider-Man. We have not seen a bad Spider-Man yet to compare.
I'm going to go with Garfield. I'm sorry with that one. I don't know. Like, he never pulled me in. Like, he never sold me. I never thought that I was not watching Andrew Garfield. Like, you know, I had it like in the back of my mind. There was no separation between actor and character for me. It was just Andrew Garfield for me. So I don't know.
Fair enough.
I don't know. Like, maybe it's because, like, you know, back then I was reading so much into, like, you know, I was reading like articles and shit about movies like this, like, you know, and like I'm not as detached as I am now. And like, I know I'm saying detached, but here I am running a podcast, like you know, we're talking about it. But like, I'm not reading like articles, like article upon article about these movies that are coming out. Like, that was 6 years ago. I was 20 years old. I had nothing better to do with my time. Like, you know,
maybe I think the biggest problem those films. So the first one tried too hard to be like Sam Raimi, which was the only difference is they pretty much put a dark filter over it because Dark Knight. Wow. And then, other than that, it was basically copy and paste. And then they completely changed the tone for the second one to try and compete with Avengers. But like the comedy was so awkward. Like Jamie Foxx, it's easily his worst performance.
Let's not get into it. I'm not opening the scope of this conversation to, like, we're not. Let's get into a couple of comments here. Rick Gentuza, he loves going against the grain. He's like, Tom Holland is Spider-Man ? I thought he was Iron Lad. All right, I get it. Yeah, you know what? That's a fair criticism because like Marvel Spider-Man is reliant on Iron Man as a mentor. I get it. Like, that's not what you want. Like, but if you're into this universe that's like, you know, 15 movies deep by the time they introduce Spider-Man, then they're going to need to connect him, right? They're going to need to tie him in.
I think you could argue they connected him too much, but I think that's actually worked in the good thing because like they pretty much made Tony Stark Uncle Ben, except involved in his life, which I think was actually a really smart move.
Right.
I think you could also say on that comment, like, I can understand why some people, like Spider-Man enthusiasts, might not love it because they've changed him so much. Like, he's very like robotic and stuff. But you know what? Like, at first when I saw all that shit, I was kind of like, ugh. But like now I appreciate the fact it's so different to the other Spider-Mans. Like, he's got a HUD. He's got like a robot fucking drone. He's got all this other shit. I think, and I think if I was like 8 years old or some shit watching that, I would think it's the coolest one because I'm thinking, oh fuck, look at all these toys I get to play with. And at the end of the day, that's what these movies are made for, to sell toys.
Right. I totally forgot to mention who won the poll. It's obviously Tom Holland, right? Tom Holland by a landslide. Shameik Moore in the number two spot, which is really surprising, right? I mean, you got Tom Holland, then right behind him is Shameik Moore. Third place is Tobey Maguire, and then fourth place is Andrew Garfield. I was really surprised by Shameik Moore, like, being that high up. So
yeah,
well done.
I think having such an amazing film must help. I imagine. Seeing Andrew Garfield at the bottom, I'm not surprised. He had the worst movies. And Spider-Man 2, I think, put a real bad taste in everyone's mouth, just like Spider-Man 3 did.
Right.
So.
Craig Dealey says, to be fair, Tobey Maguire was a great Spider-Man, but the later iterations improved on him, in my honest opinion. Tom Holland was excellent. Patrick Harrington says, I love everything about Into the Spider-Verse. If anyone has an interest in reading the Miles Morales comics, do it. They're so good. Also, Andrew Garfield isn't bad, but he's definitely in last place on this list. Bailey Abella says, Tom Holland subs everything up I perceive. So yeah, this is literally on my what I'm saying. Tom Holland sums everything I perceive Spidey to be. However, major props to Tobey Maguire. The original will always be iconic. And then Danny, co-host of the show, says, Into the Spider-Verse is the best movie we've gotten, but the best person to portray it? ? And he's got a gif of Tom Holland. So yeah, I mean, look, I think that was unsurprising that Tom Holland's won out. So, you know, still pretty good MDF game, I think. Pretty decent, considering we didn't have one.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's it for today's show. Matt, why don't you lead us out of here?
Thought you're the host, but okay.
This is where I tune out. Like, I do the same thing on like our like with Colin as well. I'm like, Colin, why don't you lead us out of here because I'm exhausted.
Midnight Double Feature is the podcast you listen to right now.
I thought you were gonna do Freak Out.
Freak Out. Okay. Yeah. Midnight Double Feature, this upcoming Attractions episode where we talk about the latest movies, news, reviews, etc. Also, check out our feature presentations. Feature presentations are where we pick a film, we do a deep dive, pretty much scene by scene. It's a good time. You should check them out. Make sure you follow us on social media. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the works. Follow us and love us. You can give us a 5-star review on iTunes if you're amazing. And if you don't want to give us a 5-star review, fuck you, I guess. No, thanks for hanging out. We still love you, etc. Stay tuned. We've got some amazing announcements coming up. Other good things to plug and say. I'm not doing a good job of this thing tonight. So I'm just going to say goodbye and thanks for hanging out. I'm Matt, and that's Zoheb. Laters.